guys, and welcome to Craftin' with Pam from the Honey Sea Star. So today we're going to learn how to make these super cute upcycled fabric pumpkins using what we have around the house, and I'll show you 3 different ways from practical to permanent, that way you can use it for years to come. So just looking around the house, I've grabbed a towel and a fabric napkin. And then if you're like me and you're a fellow crafter, chances are you've got these super cute fat quarters around. So I grabbed a few of those along with my push pins. And then jute. You can also choose a different type of material for your strand work. And then I also grabbed a cutting of a hazelnut, some scissors, for those that want to live a little dangerously, a glue gun, and some stuffing. So for this first option, I just grabbed my towel and my fabric napkin. Now, because the towel has some blue striping to it, I'm just going to turn it inside out, crumple it into a ball, and place it in the center of my napkin. And then to start securing my shape, I'm just going to fold over that first side, pin it. And if the length is a little long for that second side, no worries. Just go ahead and fold that fabric up to the length that you need and then secure it to your towel. And this will also go ahead and help you with hiding that seam. Now, to get rid of the rectangular shape, I'm going to go ahead and pinch the corners in on that third and fourth side and then secure the fabric. And then once we've got the pumpkin shape secured and we've got the towel fully wrapped, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a squish, shape it more into a spherical kind of pumpkin shape. And then now I'm going to grab the jute. And so there really isn't a science to the length that I'm looking for, other than just being mindful of how long of a stem and how long I want the vines to be. And so I'm just going to cut 4 strands of the hemp. Also, too, I like to get a lot of inspiration in my art from nature. And so one of the things that I admire most is there is such a beauty with the imperfection that nature brings. And so these really don't need to be exactly the same length. So I'm just kind of getting an idea as I measure them out. And then once we've got all 4 strands cut, we can start working on the rind of our pumpkin here and really giving it some shape. So with the first strand, I'm just going to place my pillow right on top, and starting with the diagonals, I'm going to secure my hemp around the shape, just tying it with a simple square knot. Now, you don't necessarily have to adjust them, make them perfect. Like I say, there's a beauty in that perfect imperfection. But I'm just kind of roughly adjusting them as I go, just to get them about the same length. Now, if your fabric bunches as you pull these taut, no worries. What you can do once the strands are fully secured, you can just smooth out that fabric underneath, nice and easy. It's really very easy. But once we've got the diagonals secured, we're going to go ahead and wrap the third and fourth strand around both the sides. Again, just securing these with a simple square knot. No worries as well if the knots don't exactly match up as you're tying these. You can also adjust those once it's secure. Now that all 4 strands are secured, we've got 8 pieces in total now. And so I'm going to go ahead and separate out 2. And then with the remaining 6, I'm going to partition those off so that there's 2 strands in each section. So I'll have 3 sections. And I'm just going to braid these, and this is going to create our stem. Now, there also is no science to the length of stem. Do what works best for what you've got in mind for your project. But once you have the length that you're happy with, go ahead and secure that with just a simple knot. Now, if you notice as well, the ends of my stem are a bit uneven after I'm done braiding it. I like to leave those just as is as well. It kind of gives it more of a natural look. However, if you'd want to trim them, go ahead. And then with the remaining 2 strands, I'm just going to give them a little curl and then tuck them under the rind. That way we've got some vines on our pumpkin here. And we've got ourselves our first pumpkin. So, to get started with the second one here, it's going to be almost the same, but this time we're going to use stuffing. Now, I like the stuffing because it's soft and pliable, and it also allows you just a little bit more flexibility when you're working with your shape. But we're just going to secure that first side with a pin, and then on the second side, I'm just going to fold that seam over and then secure it with a pin as well. Now, my favorite part about both of these first 2 options is when you're done with the season, if you don't want to store it or keep it, you can just unpin the fabrics, throw the towel and the napkin in the washer, put away the stuffing. You can even save the hemp for random things that you need to secure things with. And there you go. And so for the second one here, once we've got all 4 sides secured with our pins, we're going to go ahead and grab that jute again, and we're going to cut 4 strands for our vine and for our stem. Now again, the length does not necessarily matter. There's no strict science to it. Just keep in mind however long you want your vines and your stem is however long you're going to cut your strands. Once all 4 strands are cut, same thing as the first pumpkin, starting at the diagonals, we're going to secure the strands around the pillow, securing them with just a simple square knot. Now, if the corners kind of fall, gives you some trouble, no worries. You can adjust those as you're securing the strands or afterwards as well. Now, the one thing like I was saying before, with the stuffing being a bit more pliable, it's a lot easier to smooth out those fabric wrinkles and any type of puckers that you encounter along the way with pulling the strands taut around your shape. And then with the 3rd and 4th strands, same as the first pumpkin, we're just going to tie those around as well, pulling them taut. And you can see with the stuffing as well, it really gets the shape into a pumpkin a lot easier than the towel. So it really is up to you. The other aspect that I like about the towel though is it's a much more sturdier structure when it's all done. So choose what works best for you. And then when all 4 strands are secure, you can also adjust the rinds here if there's one that's just a little small comparatively to the others. Kind of shape your pumpkin, that way it suits what you need. And then partitioning off 6 strands again, we're just going to go ahead and braid those with 2 strands to each section to form our stem. And once we're happy with the length, we're going to secure that with a knot again. And then with the remaining 2 strands, I'm just going to give those a little extra curl after I shape my stem, tuck them under the rind, and we are ready to go. We've got a second pumpkin ready for the table and for our holiday. Now, if you're loving these pumpkins and you want to make one that's a little more permanent, let's live a little dangerously and break out that glue gun. So I just grabbed another fat quarter, grabbed some stuffing, but this time rather than using pins, I'm going to secure it with my hot glue. One thing to keep in mind is as the glue sets, it's going to take a little bit longer, and you're also going to want to make sure that you've got a protective surface underneath the gun. That way it doesn't damage your table. And then, of course, safety first, watch your fingers. No one wants to get burned trying to make a pumpkin. And then same thing as the first 2 pumpkins. For the 3rd and 4th sides, I'm just going to tuck in those corners. That way it's a more ovular shape. Then with this glued option as well, I also make sure to fold under all of the seams for all 4 sides. That way we're hiding those as we go so it's nice and polished. And so once we've got our shape fully glued, while that's kind of setting, we're going to go ahead and grab our jute and cut our 4 strands for the vine. This time I'll show you a different method for the stem, and I also want to go ahead and cut these a little longer so that my vine has some length to it on this one. Really though, it's up to you on what works best for your project and your vision. That same thing as the first 2 pumpkins, starting at the diagonals first. We're going to go ahead and secure our strands with a simple square knot around our shape. I generally just try and get the strands to about the same length, but ultimately it really doesn't matter. And then same thing as our second pumpkin. If there's any puckers or creases in the fabric as we pull these strands taut, no worries, you can just smooth those out once your knot is secured. And that way the fabric is nice and smooth for your pumpkin. Now for this third option, if you find that the knots don't necessarily line up as you're going, no worries. I would actually recommend not straightening them out because we're going to go ahead and hide them with that cutting of that hazelnut. So once all 4 strands are secured, I'm going to partition these off this time into 2 sections of 3 strands and then 2 that are just a singular strand. And so with the 2 sections that have 3 strands in them, I'm going to braid those up. And again, all of these are going to be our vine, but what I love about this one is that it kind of gives it a little extra texture with having the thickness of the braid as a vine and then also those singular strands. And it really reminds me of pumpkins in a patch. And so I'm just going to braid these up to the length that I'm happy with, secure them with a knot, same thing like we did with the stem on the first 2 pumpkins. As you can see, I'm not cutting the ends. I like to leave them a little irregular. That way it's nice and natural. It's really up to you at this point what you'd like to do. And then grabbing that hazelnut cutting, I'm going to go ahead and secure some glue onto the end of it and then just place that right over the glued portions of the vine. Now, truth be told, this was actually going to be a coat hanger. Didn't quite make it to the wall, so as you can see the top, I just sanded it. It's got a little bit of varnish. If you want to paint it too, just as another option, play around with it, make it yours. And then once the stem is secured, I'm just going to go ahead and start tucking those ends of our vine underneath the rind. I usually find the messier the better. And I'm going to go ahead and secure both the braided ones and then 1 singular strand. Now for that 4th singular strand there, I'm going to actually wind that around the end of the stem where it meets the pumpkin. That way I can hide that seam. And I'm going to just secure it with a little bit of glue here. Be careful to watch your fingers. That way you don't get burned. And then once that 4th strand is fully wound and secured around the stem, I'm just going to tuck the end in underneath the rind. And we've got our 3rd pumpkin ready for the holiday season here. So I hope you guys liked the video, and more importantly too, I hope you enjoyed a few ideas to get your mind working here as you bring some harvest into your home and get ready for your holiday seasons. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, help support the channel, and stay tuned for more videos on home decor, crafts, and anything that we can come up with to share some art with the world. Take care and happy harvesting.